Yeah.
Did either of you check out what Playground Games they're releasing Forza Horizon 5
Yeah.
uh, in the next couple of days? And they did a whole segment on how they're are trying to get nuance of car engines and sort of the new technologies that they're implementing to get smaller
Oh,
samples that are more
yeah.
repeatable, but to be able to like reconstruct and almost fully simulate an actual car engine down to like transmission clicks and like the wind up and wind down of engines, and that just reminded me of like something as rhythmic as footsteps or a car idle. It actually needs even more attention to the nuance in it because when you start hearing the repetition, it becomes not only obvious, but it's something that you're doing all the time, and it's like it starts to grate on you. And it's bad audio design.
I
Yeah.
saw that developer video. It was awesome. And yeah, they are, I'm sure, still scratching the surface of the level of detail that they hope to achieve.
Yeah.
But like you said, you've got the engine side of things. But what about now swapping engines between vehicles? What about changing the tires? What about
Yeah.
changing the muffler?
And
What
that,
about, we talk about changing the perspective of the camera from inside to outside. How are you modeling the occlusion of the car when you're inside
yeah.
versus do you
Road noise.
road noise?
Yeah.
Which I thought one of the interesting things that's evolved in the age of electric cars is being able to record road noise on different surfaces without engine sounds, right? The racing game sound study was great in a similar way. Again, assessing a dozen different racing games. My secret on that one was I had a super smart motorhead in my neighborhood who was into game audio, hadn't quite found his way there, went on to work on Forza afterwards, but knew a ton about cars and knew a ton about video game cars and was willing to do the study with me. And so when we wrote the companion articles, again, I was able to eke out things from him about the way that games had started to express the simulation of vehicles. Like this idea that when a tire gets almost to the point of squealing, right? We're all familiar with squealing tires, and what they represent to the player is, I'm slowing down. Like that's bad. In that generation, they had started to create what's called the like tire hum, which is the moment at which you have the greatest amount of surface area before you squeal them. And so for the attuned racing game aficionado cranking up the sound system, they're hearing that hum and they're using it. It's a communication device to say to them, check this.
And I mean that's a great example of amazing sound design when you're using not just your audio system to enhance what you're experiencing, but as a communication device and as another mechanism in which the players are interacting directly to like the audio system, getting informed as to what's going on in the game and how it might how the audio cues might tell you how to change your strategy or your gameplay style.
Yeah, because ultimately there's that feedback mechanism, right? That many games need to find the balance between what is the sound of environmental storytelling, right? What helps to establish this level of immersion, there's that word, versus
immersive audio.
versus what do I need to communicate to the player about their experience, or what's my intention that I'm trying to communicate, and how does sound help to communicate that in one way or another, whether it's scoring points or increasing the amount of fear in something like Dead Space. They had that great technique they talked a ton about called fear emitters, right? Which were emitters that they placed throughout the map that allowed the user to navigate, and it would dynamically change the atmosphere of the music as they got closer or farther from these things. Now, monsters in that world could also carry a level of fear that would contribute to the amount of that. And so you would now have this, yeah, Moreland knows what I'm talking about. You would have this, more fluid interaction between the progression of a player and, on their own terms, and the response of the level of tension expressed through the soundscape. Yep. Right. So whether what you're trying to communicate is like a ding, 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 yeah, you won, or it's a subtle influence, right? Sound as communication, I think, is at the core of the interactive experience.
Looking forward, what are you excited to see in the world of game audio, and what do you see as coming around the bend that has got you excited? Well,
I do like what we've started as an industry around this idea of 3D audio, around the idea of uncapping the format to deliver the best representation. It's early. We all need to work together. We have a long way to go, both from a education, technology, and creativity standpoint. But the more that we can start to align towards the shared vocabulary, sharing experiences, that's already starting to happen from the first generation of VR and spatialization to the current availability of 3D audio on the PS5, and that adoption piece. Okay, so that's one egg that I will set here to hatch. And then the other one, I think, is the accessibility and diversity piece. And I say diversity to be somewhat encompassing of all that word means. However, the ability for people to express themselves and the intentions of the experience they're authoring for in a day and age where we have great opportunity for telling these diverse stories or having these diverse experiences. And something I tried to highlight in the questions that you asked about some of my favorite games or experiences.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just that there is a world for AAA Hollywood blockbusters in films and games, etc. And maybe I'm more of a documentary person, right? Maybe I dig the art house a little bit more. And in my time as someone who plays games growing up to now, I see the huge diversity of experiences being represented. And I think that can only lead to a richer art form. When we have a level of accessibility where people feel like they have the tools to tell their stories, to express themselves. And so I think it's maybe that idea that 3D audio, yeah, it's kind of out there. It's not super accessible for people from a contextual perspective, or even a why or how right now.
Yeah.
But we are working towards this idea of at least being able to express ourselves through the medium of dynamic audio in the context of, again, I try not to use the word games too much. Experiences is a little more open, because I think that games are only a piece of what we can represent through this medium. So allowing as much accessibility to the creation part of that process, I hope leads to the greater diversity of experiences that people can connect with and use to, bridge the gaps between people.